Learning to understand spoken Chinese requires an awful lot of listening practice. In this episode, I'll introduce and explain a simple trick that allowed me to double the amount of Chinese I listen to. Hello and welcome to the Hacking Chinese podcast. In this week's episode, I'm going to share with you a simple trick that you can use to increase the amount of Chinese you listen to by a lot. I listen to maybe 20 hours of audio a week, and getting to that amount requires a lot of thinking about how to get listening done and how to integrate it in other activities and so on. But this trick is very simple, and yet it had a very big impact for me. Before I go into that though, I'd like to say that there is a Black Friday sale available for my courses, and it starts today and it ends on Monday, November the 28th. Of course, if you listen to this later, this specific discount might not be available, but you can still head over to hackingchinese.com/courses and see what's available when you are listening. The discount is valid for two of my courses. First, we have Unlocking Chinese, the ultimate guide for beginners. And as the name implies, that's a beginner course which takes you through everything you need to know to get off to a good start with Mandarin. So it covers how to learn, but it also covers the basics of characters, it goes through the basics of the sound system, pinyin, and so on. And it also comes with a sentence pack so you can get started with vocabulary and grammar. The second course is called Hacking Chinese, a practical guide for learning Mandarin, and is a general course for upgrading the way you are learning. So that would be for anybody who is not a beginner. This course focuses exclusively on how to learn, so there won't be long lists of characters to learn or grammar patterns to memorize and things like that, but rather this course will give you the tools so that you can learn Chinese as efficiently and as quickly as possible. So to make use of the discount, head over to hackingchinese.com/courses and pick the course you're interested in, and there will be information about how to apply the discount code and so on. Okay, that being said, let's move over to the simple trick I use to double the amount of Chinese I listen to, and it's written by me, Ole Linge. Listening ability is probably the hardest skill for learners of Chinese. You eventually get the hang of learning characters and even pronouncing tones, but training your brain to process the spoken language quickly enough to understand naturally spoken Chinese requires an awful lot of practice. I'm sure most students have had the experience of feeling quite comfortable in class, understanding most of what the teacher says, and then talking to a stranger only to find comprehension going down at a speed only matched by that sinking feeling you get when you realize you haven't made as much progress as you thought. Don't despair. Here are some things to keep in mind. 1. Improving listening ability is mostly a matter of practice. The more you listen, the better you will get at it. No clever methods are needed and no expensive courses or resources. 2. Your problem might not actually be listening. Even if the end result is that you don't understand what someone is saying, it's very common that a lack of vocabulary is what's actually holding you back. 3. Learn to understand regionally accented Mandarin. If you only listen to the same type of Mandarin, or maybe even the same person, you will find it hard to understand other types or people simply because you're not used to them. The general conclusion is that you should listen more than you do. Much more. I'm used to listening to audio for many hours a week, but in this article I want to share a simple trick that enabled me to double the amount I listen to each week. Before I introduce the trick itself, let me explain why it works. I have spent many years trying to build habits that let me read and listen as much as possible, and I have also coached many students and helped them do the same. One clear conclusion that can be drawn from this experience is that even small problems that look like they should be easy to solve can prevent you from getting the listening practice you need. Here are a few examples. Not having audio available on your mobile device. This more or less guarantees that you can't listen whenever you want, which drastically reduces the amount of audio you can listen to in a week. It doesn't sound hard to download audio to your phone, yet even I sometimes go for weeks without having suitable audio available, for no other reason than laziness. Not having earphones available at all times. Similar to the previous item, not having earphones means that you can't listen whenever you want, because it's not socially acceptable to go around blasting Chinese podcasts at the general public. Again, it seems easy to always have them with you, and have a backup too, but most people just don't do this. Not having an effortless way to start listening. Even if you have the audio and you have the earphones with you, it needs to be really easy to get started listening. I have noticed that even very small hurdles can put listening off significantly. Having to open apps, navigate folders and so on all make it harder to get started. Opening a browser and navigating to some slow-loading website to get started is even worse. The trick I use to double the amount of Chinese I listen to is related to the last item on this list. It might sound silly, but consider that I listen to at least 10 hours of spoken audio every week already, and I still manage to increase that by a significant amount just by doing this. So, the thing that made such a big difference for me was simply to get the right pair of earphones. Now, you might think I'm trying to sell earphones here, but that's not it at all. In fact, I will not even tell you what brand I use or where I purchased them, but I will tell you that they cost less than $30. These are not high-end earphones. You might also think that this is silly. Why would such a small change make such a big difference? But I'm not making this up. It actually did double the amount of Chinese I listened to. I clocked more than 10 hours per week during last month's listening challenge. That's on top of listening to almost 10 hours of audio in English each week. Of course, it does not matter which earphones you use, as long as they have these qualities. Indeed, you might even have other requirements that suit your needs better. I merely list why I find the pair of earphones I'm using now to be so much better than those I had before. First, battery life. The current pair of earphones I use is good for 1 day of fairly intensive listening, maybe 6 hours or so, without charging. If you use each earphone individually, they are completely separate and can be paired individually, you have twice that. More than you can realistically listen to in a day. But that's not enough. The box they come in work as a power bank, which automatically charges each earphone when it's put in the box. That way, I only need an external power supply to charge the box maybe once a week. This significantly reduces the hassle of listening, running out of batteries, or even needing to think about charging. Second, practical to wear. Because these are individual in-ear headphones, not connected to each other, they can be worn around the clock if you want. Switch between your left and right ear if you feel uncomfortable. I can do handstands and somersaults without them flying out. The lack of a cord also means they don't get tangled in cupboard handles when cooking or similar. I guess we're all different when it comes to what is practical to wear, but this is far better than most expensive earphones I've tried. Third, easy to start and stop audio. While this could be dependent on your phone and media player, the single big button on each earphone stops or plays the current audio when pressed. This makes it very easy to turn the media off if someone wants to talk to me or something happens where I need to pay attention. It also makes it easy to start listening again once the distraction is gone. I can even have my phone charging in another room and keep listening while moving around the apartment. Even easy to solve problems are serious problems until you solve them. I know this reads like a review of a pair of earphones I happen to like, but I'm really not after promoting these earphones in particular, but instead I want to highlight the importance of small, seemingly insignificant factors and how much of a difference they can make. Like I said earlier, I'm used to listening to a lot of spoken audio and was still amazed by how much I increased the amount I listened to simply by switching earphones. So, the takeaway from this article is that small things matter when it comes to things like listening more. Don't think that not having audio available or not having the right earphones doesn't matter, because they are easy to fix. The easier you make it to go from not listening to Chinese to listening to Chinese, the more you will listen. Thank you for tuning in to the Hacking Chinese podcast. If you like this episode, please share it. More information and inspiration about learning and teaching Chinese can be found at hackingchinese.com. See you in the next episode, and until then, good luck with your studies.